There is an ebb and flow to the seasons of a garden, with the enthusiasm of the spring flowing into the abundance of the summer, and onto the reflection back at the various successes and failures throughout the year, before relaxing into the planning and dreaming of the next season. Each year I do more, develop more, and generally get better at what I do, though I often remain frustrated at the few continued failures and the slow rate of change, both in my own gardens and in the broader world. For a long time, I've been working to try to change the world, or at least a small portion of it, and I've been frustrated at how slowly things are changing, if at all. Now, all of a sudden, the world is a very different place, and the future is really uncertain, and everything's probably going to change whether we like it to or not, perhaps quite dramatically. So, in addition to the usual busyness of the spring, I also find myself spending time trying to understand what is going on, to try to prepare for different possible futures, and to reevaluate my own plans. And I think that it's also an appropriate time to give another overview of this Red Gardens project as it's growing and developing and perhaps becoming more useful to an increasing number of people. I have been working on this project for over 10 years now, though it had quite a slow start with a lack of time, resources, and interest, and an uncertainty about how it would fit into the broader world. Its origin developed from a study of the world around me and my work in the areas of urbanism, intentional communities, climate change, energy constraints, food security, sustainability, and resilience. Throughout all of this, I kept coming back to the basic idea that the world would be a better place if more people grew more of their own food. But I found myself in a location where very few people were growing any food at all, and I began to explore how I could help to change this. First of all, I felt that I needed to take up the challenge myself, to grow my own food, or at least as much of it as I could. So I started a small back garden, then a larger allotment, and I bought and read all of the books that I could get on the subject. That is when I became confused, as it seemed that each book was telling me to do different things, often contradictory things, and I realized that I did not have the ability to determine which method or approach was more appropriate, which was the best one for me to use. So I decided to try a bunch of them out, and this was the genesis of the Red Gardens project. After quite a few years of development on this site in a small village in the Midlands of Ireland, the core of this project consists of 6 different family-scale gardens, each being managed using a different approach or core philosophy. The extensive garden is following the suggestions of Steve Solomon and is focused on growing the best quality vegetables, hopefully with the highest nutritional density, with lots of space between the plants and careful remineralization of the soil, among other strategies. The intensive garden is following the guidance of John Jevons and others, and focuses on maximizing yield, of getting the most out of the garden by putting the most into it, including double digging the beds, lots of compost, and close spacing of plants. The no-dig garden is based on the simple premise of not disturbing the soil, but the specific method I've been using has changed over the years. I originally followed an approach of using a deep mulch of undecomposed material, but experienced some serious problems, including an explosion of the slug population, and have more recently shifted to following the advice of Charles Dowding and using a thick layer of compost as a mulch instead. The polyculture garden is based on the simple and interesting idea of integrating the plants rather than segregating them into different rows or beds, but there is a lack of detailed advice or the experience of others that I can follow, especially for this climate, and this method has taken me a while to get a handle on. The simple garden is my most recent addition to the set, and is based on my own design of integrating specific crop rotation with easy fertility management and careful selection of crops so that I can get the most out of the garden with considerably less effort than with the other gardens. The Polytunnel garden is entirely under a sheet of plastic stretched over a metal frame, with the purpose of creating a better microclimate in which I can grow a number of heat-loving crops that really struggle in our cool summers, as well as extending the growing season throughout the full year, and it has the potential of being highly productive. I also have a 7th garden, which I call the perennial garden, but this has been seriously neglected over the past few years, but I hope that I can resurrect it again soon. In addition to this set of smaller family-scale gardens, I also have the opportunity to grow in a significantly larger space, which I call the black plot. At the moment, only the relatively large polytunnel is being used, and the rest of the space hasn't been managed in the last few years, as I've not had enough time. This space has huge potential, and is focused on exploring growing food at an intermediate scale, which is larger than what would be needed by a family, but smaller than a market garden or farm. There is also lots of space for exploring many other things that I can't fit into the family scale gardens, including seed saving, trial plots of different no-dig methods, vegetable variety trials, and to try out different efficiency and labor-saving methods that have been developed by market gardeners. When I started this project, I thought I could end up finding out which one method was the best one for me to use, but it evolved into more of an exploration of comparing and contrasting, of trying to figure out the benefits and issues of all of the different methods. Some people are looking for simple advice and easy answers, and thankfully there are many resources out there that offer lots of advice and simple instructions about how to grow. I'm far more interested in seeking to better understand the nuance and complexity of using different methods within my context, available resources, and climate, as well as working within my own strengths and weaknesses and skill levels. I like that this evolving approach is in contrast to the polarization and simplification of issues and methods that is so common these days, with so many ideas being reinforced within echo chambers. And I've tried to carry this approach into this YouTube channel, where I try to explain what happened when I tried something, or exploring the reasons behind observations that I made. And I try to avoid giving advice, mainly because most people are growing food in very different climates, soil types, and ecosystems, with access to different types of resources, and have different personal preferences and abilities. And I'm not sure I've found the best answers, even in my own gardens. But I hope that by sharing experiences, people can better understand the diversity of different options, of how they might fit into their own contexts. And I guess I'm trying to encourage more critical thought and understanding, and inquisitive open-mindedness for those who are interested. I didn't start with this approach, but it has evolved over time in parallel to how the project has evolved, and each of the methods have adapted and each of the gardens have improved. Each season, I take on more ideas and growing spaces, and I always end up overextending myself, and I end up having a certain amount of failure, or things that didn't go as I hoped they would. The 5 outside gardens and 2 polytunnels are in great shape for this time of year, and I'm feeling really good about this season, and a big part of that is that I now have help in the gardens. A friend who recently moved into our community and wanted to learn how to grow food has been volunteering in the gardens and will be helping with a lot of the work over the full season. Together we will soon have the existing growing spaces up to date, fully planted and under control, and then we can begin to expand the areas under cultivation and develop other areas of the black plot. This year, more than any other season in the past, it feels highly appropriate and timely to be on top of all of the work in the gardens for the most part, and to be starting the process of expanding into new growing spaces and other areas of exploration. The world has suddenly and dramatically changed, and it seems that we're heading into a very different and largely unknown future. The global, regional, and local food supply systems currently are scrambling to manage disruptions to supplies, labor, and distribution, and overall things don't look very resilient in the short to medium term. All of this makes me want to focus even more on my gardens, as if I didn't already have enough incentive to grow more food, and it seems that many other people are starting to feel the same. There has been a huge surge in people wanting to grow food, to start a garden, or to further develop one they already have, partially because many people currently have more time, but also because of a concern about the future. Or at least this is what a lot of people I know are talking about. A significant sign of this massive change of focus is that all of the companies that I usually get supplies for the gardens from are either running out of equipment, material, and seeds, or are so overwhelmed that their websites are regularly shutting down in order to deal with the backlog of orders. This seems to be happening around the world, and who knows how things will be in the next few weeks or months or even next year. It's strange to be in the situation where what myself and others have been doing for ages suddenly seems to make a lot more sense to a lot more people. It feels really good to be in the position to be able to contribute to this significant transformation. And I'm really glad that I've been able to develop a lot of skills and gain valuable experience over the years, to have developed this YouTube channel, to have the gardens in their best shape to begin the season, as well as having help to do a lot more. As a huge amount more needs to be done worldwide, as well as within this little project here in the Midlands of Ireland, in order to rise to the challenges ahead. We have access to more space than we can probably manage, there is no lack of things to explore or methods to compare, and there appears to be a surge of interest globally, so the only limits to this Red Gardens project are time and resources, both of which are a bit scarce. This project is fully independent and gets no governmental or institutional support, and I don't accept any sponsorship. So, beyond the sale of surplus vegetables to people in my community, the only funding that this project receives is through this YouTube channel, regular contributions by patrons on my Patreon page, and direct once-off contributions through PayPal from people around the world. I'm really grateful for all those wonderful people who have so generously supported this project throughout the years, and if you'd like to join them, I have included links in the description below. All of this is to help ensure that there are the resources so that this Red Gardens project can continue into the future, so that I can make more videos about all of the projects that we're exploring during this strange and interesting times that we live in, with the ultimate aim of trying to help more people grow more of their own food.